Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is March the 19th, 2022, and we are going to take a look or continue our look into the lunar Sabbath. And we're going to be taking another look at, you guys don't know this, but Isaiah 66:23, my old nemesis. I've never really been comfortable with it. So I have been studying now, and I was able to, we're going to go through this step by step and look at it together because I have figured it out. I figured it out. So let's go ahead and get started. And it shall come to pass from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. So we're going to be using scripture for all in our interpretation this time as well. I have it here. Isaiah 66 verse 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. We're going to start with this word here, which is interpreted as from one. Okay, and the breakdown for it is from the quota of. So a quota, let's open our handy dandy dictionary here. Look that up. A quota is the limited number or quantity of something which is officially allowed. A quota is a fixed maximum or minimum proportion of people from a peculiar group. Well, it can be anything, not just people. Someone's quota of something is their expected or deserved share of it. Let's find Webster's. I think Webster's is the same. It's the etymology here is here from Latin. Quota pars, how great a part. A proportion, part, or share, especially the share or proportion assigned. Oh, here's Webster's down here. We'll just read this. To each in a division or to each member of a body. The number or amount constituting a proportional share, a fixed number or percentage of a minority group, not necessarily a minority group. It's not just people. Okay, anyway, it's a portion or a share. So in order for a quota to be met, a qualification has to be met. So I pulled up this word here just for this form. There are other forms. I'll show you. Well, you can see a list of them here. We don't really need to go through. Well, I'll show you some of these down here as well. The quota, from the quota of to what is sufficient, as sufficient of, as sufficient, quota of them, sufficient of you, sufficient of. Something, but a proportion of something must be met. A qualification must be met is the most important takeaway. You have to meet a certain qualification in order for the quota to be actually satisfied. All right? So let's look at some uses of this particular form of the word. And he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah and judged Israel in all those places. What is the quota? From a year had to be met, and then the next year he would go. So 1 full year had to pass. One full year had to pass before he would go to the next place. From year, so he'd spend a year at Bethel, a year at Gilgal, a year at Mizpah. The year had to come and go. That's the quota from year to year. And when the king entered into the house of the Lord, the guard came and fetched them, and brought them again unto the guard chamber. So what's the quota? The king had to enter into the house of the Lord before the guard would go and fetch them. This is not year to year. This is first the king enters into the house of the Lord, and then the guard would go and fetch them. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites and said to them, Go out into the cities of Judah and gather all Israel money to repair the house of your God from year to year, and see that ye hasten the matter. Howbeit the Levites hastened it not. And he, where's the quota at? Okay. Here. Okay, so the quota here is from year, the quota of the year to the year. So once the year started, they would go out from the year to the next year. Every year, they would go out and they would collect in each place. One year had to come and a year had to go before they would collect. But they didn't, but it doesn't matter. So the quota is a condition that needs to be met. It's a certain portion or something that has to be met. In the case of the king, the quota, it used the quota to say that the king had to enter the house first. That was the requirement in order for the guard to fetch them. Now, Isaiah is a little bit different. Because, see, when you look at Isaiah, is similar to the king. When you look at the time frames that are given here, you have the quota of 1 year to the next year. But let's look at the way these words are formed. Year has this W character, and then this little half square here, and then the broken in. The W has like a T-like character underneath, and so does the half square. And then you get over here, and so this is your word for year. And then you go from year to, so this is your 2, year. And the year, the word for year is exactly the same. It has a T under the W, it has a T under the half square, and then it has the little broken in. The same thing here. From year to year, same words. When you get to Isaiah, it has the word for month, but this is not the word for month. That's not what that means. If it was the word for month, it would say from month, and then you'd have this C there, and then you'd have an N with nothing under it. This has something under it. You would have this 7-like character with 3 dots, and then you'd have the W with 1 dot instead of 2. This is a completely different word with a completely different meaning. If you've been here long enough, you have noticed that sometimes we would look up words in Strong's, in Eastward, and more than once we've looked up a word and it meant the same thing and the opposite. They'd give you paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of definitions because they don't have these little dots and tittles in here to distinguish one word from another. So every time you would look at this word, they would have to give you every definition. And I remember the word come, to come, or something like that. The word to come meant to come and to go in one of the Strong's definitions that we looked up. It meant exactly the same and exactly the opposite. That's not the way the human language, that's not the way language works in any language. No language works like that. But they have to give you all of those definitions because of the lack of punctuation on the words or on the letters. We have the punctuation here, and we can see clearly, even though these words are related, they do not mean the same thing. They don't. So that's what we're going to investigate further. But first, let's go and look at the scriptures that I have pulled for us, because I don't think it's the same ones. So we have Isaiah 66. And those officers provided victuals for King Solomon, and for all that came unto King Solomon's table, every man in his month. They lacked nothing. I don't know why I pulled that, so let's look at the... Okay, so we have... Okay, I'm working on this part, this of him part, so that we can figure out what this means. This of him. So we have the month of him. This is the him part right here. And then that little dot is added for the of. So it'll be of him. And then this is, if you remember, the C here means during the month. And then it added the extra dots and tittles. So it makes up this. So what I did was I pulled up scriptures. We could have looked it up on Scriptures for All, but there were so many. There was just so many of them that I just picked out a couple of them so that there's too many. We can't go through it like that. So I just picked out a couple to show you that when it says of him, it's speaking specifically in regards to the person or the topic. It'll say of him when it means of it or of her, but it's always his or her or its. So, and those officers provided victuals for King Solomon and for all that came unto King Solomon's table, every man in his month. They lacked nothing. 1 Kings 4:27. Let me show you that here. I might have it bookmarked. I don't. Okay. In the month of him. And when, this is a quote, I think we already read this one. The king entered into the house of the Lord, the guard came and fetched them and brought them again into the guard chamber. So we've already looked at this. This is the quota of. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites and said to them, go out into the cities of Judah and gather all Israel's money to repair the house of your God. So it has year to year as well as the quota of. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household, each man his month in a year. 1 Kings 4:7. In the household of him. So you can see that it's of him, it's about his household. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month in a year made provisions. And we should look at that his month in a year as well, because we're trying to become familiar with that. The month is the same and the year is the same during the year. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of the king Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is the lot, before Haman. And they do cast lots in here. I said once that they did not cast lots. I think they do. I'm pretty sure I saw it somewhere else after we spoke, that they were casting lots. And not only that, this is a heathen king. Heathen king, that's all they did was cast lots. They didn't use the Urim and the Thummim. Oh, that was Leviticus I was looking at. I don't know. I know I saw them casting lots, but I think it was children of Israel doing it. Anyway, in the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman, from day to day and from month to month, in the 12th month, that is the month Adar. I must have put this in here to make my point that I was making, that you can see from day is the same to day. And from month, you have the month here, and from month to month. It's the same each time. It doesn't have to be, because they can add words to it and things like that. But for the most part, it's the same each time. The word that we have in Isaiah 66 is different. And he did so year by year. And then this is the quota of again. So we'll look at one or two more of these. I'm not sure how many I have in here. This is the quota part. And then you can see year is the same, by year it's exactly the same. So when they say month by month, it's not correct. It's not written the same as it is written anywhere else. It's written differently. And it came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day. I know one of these is different in here that I want to show you, so that's why I'm pressing through here day by day. As long as I can anyway, because I don't know how many I put in here. Okay, I think this one is different. Daily task. So let's stop it. Let me see first. Okay, that's broken up because of the way I have it highlighted. Still. Okay. No, this is day by the day of him. So it's a specific day. It's still the same. Let's look at it. Exodus 5:19. Should be in here. And the officers of the children of Israel did see that they were in evil case, after it was said, Ye shall not minish aught from your bricks of your daily task in the day of him, of your daily task. Something is assigned to them that has another requirement. This is what it's when it means of him. It's attaching itself to something that is required. It is attaching itself to the person. Here it's saying, okay, from your bricks of your daily task. From the bricks of you, that's your bricks. It's there, the task part is here. From the day, in the day of their tasks. Because if they weren't doing, because you can't say their tasks for the day. It has to be from the day, on the day when they had tasks. That's what the of him is for. It's specifying the group amidst another group of him. I think I missed that point. I think I forgot to point that out in the previous verses. I don't want to. Yeah, we're going to have to go back and look at them again because I don't think I pointed it out. Okay. And those officers provided victuals for King Solomon and for all that came unto King Solomon's table. Every man when in the month of him. What is the month of him? Because he's going to have a month every month forever until he dies, right? In the month that he was required to provide victuals for Solomon's table. First, there had to be a requirement. Solomon needed victuals for his table, for the man to have a month that was assigned to him. Do you see? The victuals were needed. Each man was assigned a month. That's the picture that's being painted in Isaiah 66. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, it's not from one new moon to another, it's from the new moon. And once you have met the requirements, the quota of this new moon, then you can meet this requirement in the month of him. What is the requirement of the new moon in the month of him? I'm going to tell you. The new moon in the month of him, the second requirement of the new moon is that it must be the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is also the Passover. How do I know that? I'm going to show you because it's written in other places in the Bible. Okay? So this is what they're talking about here. But what they cannot be talking about is from month to month, because we looked at example after example where these words don't mean month to month. It just doesn't. You cannot say that this is month to month. This is not month to month. That's not the way the words are written. You just want to put stuff in there because, okay, hold on a moment. Let me tell you something. I listen to everything, but there are certain things that you just know aren't true. Even if you will listen to the argument out of respect, because we're here to learn. We're students. That's the way students are. We can hear the most preposterous thing. We're willing to hear the evidence. That's just the way it always seems to work out. If someone came up to you and told you Jesus was a sinner and was really Satan, you're going to be like, yeah, no, you are mistaken, but I'm going to listen to what you say. I'm going to listen to you fairly and hear your argument. The reason why you can be certain that they are mistaken, even if you listen to them, is because you know the picture that's drawn in the Bible. You have a spiritual picture of Jesus that tells you automatically that this dude is mistaken, even if you sit and listen to him. There are spiritual pictures for all of these things in the Bible. So when you look at something like there's a new moon celebration which guides the sun, well, that spiritually, that's an abomination. At best, it's an abomination. It's blasphemy at worst. In the Bible, the picture that is drawn by the moon is the sun and the moon. It says the sun is the greater and the moon is not, is the lesser. So how can the movement of the sun, the Sabbath, which is guided by the day, which is guided by the sun, by looking at the sun, be dictated by the moon? It says the sun and the moon is a representation of the man and the woman. You have put the woman who is represented by the moon over the man. That's an abomination. That's not real. The sun and the moon represents the Father and his word. You have put the word of God over the God that created. That's blasphemy. The Son is represented by Jesus. Jesus and the Jesus is the Word, and then the ordinance. What is it? It starts with an O. It's the law, and then the ordinances. Okay, thank you. So now the ordinances, which are there to describe the law, or Jesus and His Word, are now put over the law itself. It's preposterous. So listening to what they say, and this seems to be something that the wicked have a very hard problem seeing. You can use this to your advantage if you will look at the spiritual picture. And you often have to do this to interpret these scriptures. This is why I can read things and I say, wait a second, this is not right, because it doesn't match the picture that's given in the Bible of what actually happened. It cannot be right. If there was a moon that dictated the law of the sun, it undoes all of those pictures which are illustrated in the Bible. So it's wrong right off the bat. It just is. Either it's wrong, or all of those pictures that we have been given about the man and the woman, the God and His Word, the law and the ordinances, the sun being the greater and the moon being the lesser light. All of those pictures have to be undone spiritually. They don't care about the spiritual picture because they interpret strictly on the words. Either they just can't see it. I don't know. But so when you look at it, I can look at this and I can say, well, there's a problem. And then it's just a matter of seeking out, where is the disconnect? The disconnect is right here. This doesn't say what they say it says. It doesn't. And there are other scriptures that do say exactly what this says if you interpret them correctly. But let's go ahead. Okay, hold on, because we have to jump back ahead to Ezra. And I think Ezra may be a picture as well. Ezra, we know that this first day was the month they call Nisan was the 8th month. Adar is the 7th month. You know what? We're not going to get into this again. We've already gone over this. But let's go ahead and look at the scriptures. And he did so year by year. Incidentally, I can't remember. I don't remember what video we went on into that. If you haven't seen it, where we discussed Nisan, I think it might have been one of the videos entitled "The Full Moon is the New Moon," but I cannot be sure. I know it was part of the Lunar Sabbath study, but I've done like over a dozen videos, so I can't tell you for certain which one it was. But we did go over that. Anyway, as he did so year by year, when this is again the word for quota, she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her, therefore she wept and did not eat. I don't want to go look at that anymore. So we're going to bypass that. And it came to pass that she spake to Joseph day by day. Let's see if this is the same, because I know there's a change. I've got more than one where it's different for day by day. So this one is the same, so we don't need that. And the officers of the children of Israel did see that they were in evil case after it was said, "Ye shall not minish aught from your bricks." We've already read this. I must not have gone. This is another example of his and God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. This is another example of his. I think we're going to have to do another video because I didn't. Because I don't want to have to rush. 11, and then there's 2 verses here. Species of him, and then of him, and it's bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, which is of him. The requirement is the tree that is yielding fruit, and if it yields fruit, then it's of him. It's after the kind of the tree it is. And then the seed is as well. The seed is going to plant another tree after its kind, and the fruit is going to yield fruit with the seed after its kind. So let me see if I can get to a point where we've passed all of this, and then we'll start the next video and then just go over the examples where we can see it, the exact same thing seen in other parts of the Bible. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward his wife, and his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. Again, this is the same thing. Deuteronomy 28:54. And I'm not going to read through that, but you can see it here. It's of him, of him, of him, of him. Because we're just trying to get through it at this point. His servants, we won't look that up. You know what? We'll just stop here and then we'll pick up. We'll pick up from here. I will talk with you in the next video.